Hello everybody, I'm Emily. Welcome back to my channel. Here we explore all of the things that can help you have an easier time in this wild experience that we call life as a human being. So this is my first video of 2021. It is a new year, time for a reset, time for new things, time to stop and check in and make the shifts that we need to get where we want to go. And for this video, I wanted to take the opportunity to share a little bit more about my personal story. This is something that so many of you have been asking for. I often get messages saying things like, what happened to you to help you figure out all of these things? And my response is always a lot of struggling. This video is because you guys want to know all the juice and the dirty details of life before. And of course, it's not just one story. I have a whole lifetime of stories. But for the purpose of this video, I have chosen 3 snapshot short story moments of my life to help you understand a little bit more where I've been and where I've come from. It's the early 2000s. I'm in middle school. I'm probably around 13, peak awkward stage. I have a gap between my 2 front teeth and a flair for the dramatic. I wrote a lot of poetry and played pretend and ran around barefoot and had all these deep feelings, pretty much exactly how I am now. And I loved acting and being on stage for some reason, even though I was painfully shy. So I was the kid that always got the note from the director at the end to project and be louder. So I'm this shy middle school kid, and I'm taking my first improv class. And in the class, we're playing this game called freeze tag, where the people on stage are acting out a scene, and then someone in the audience calls freeze, and then everyone freezes, and then that person jumps in and switches the scene to something different. So I'm sitting there in this class, and I'm just never calling freeze. I'm never tapping in because my brain cannot think of ideas that fast. I'm more of what you might call a slow cooker. So the teacher calls freeze and then tags me in. My heart stopped, and I remember walking onto that stage and just standing there for what felt like an eternity. My mind completely shut down, my heart was racing, I was sweating, and everything around me just started buzzing with this sense of impending doom. And I just stood there like this, completely unable to say a word, until the teacher finally said that I could go sit back down. I had never felt anything like that before, and I didn't know until probably a decade later. But that was my first panic attack, and unfortunately, the first of many. Fast forward to my freshman year of college. I moved to a new state, far away from my home. I didn't know anybody at my new school. College was a really hard time for me. I realized I didn't really know who I was or what I believed. I started asking all these big existential questions, and then one day, literally just one day, all of a sudden, I woke up feeling underwater. Deep, dark, spooky water. And that cavernous heartache, that void within myself, is now a familiar friend to me. But at that time, it was something totally new. And that was the year that we were formally introduced by my therapist. This was when I met depression. I was depressed, but not just regular old depression. My extreme roller coaster highs and lows earned me the special title of cyclothymia. For a while, I would have horrible insomnia, terrible anxiety and panic attacks. My thoughts would race. I would have a million thoughts at once and need to do everything at once. Literally just needed to do all the things. And then it would flip on a dime and I would crash hard and ditch class and sleep till 5 p.m. and wonder what the point was of doing anything at all. And my therapist was terrible, and my psychiatrist took me on and off so many medications. I was working 3 jobs and had a full course load at my school, and I still didn't really understand what was happening to me and what I could do about it. My own body became such a scary place to inhabit, and my own mind was like this creepy nonstop circus. It felt like everyone around me was handling life with such grace and ease, and I was dying inside. And I didn't let anybody know. I kept it all inside, and I was a good girl, and I did good in school, and I worked hard, and I graduated with honors. And though I was surrounded with privilege and support and love, inside, I felt totally alone. It's 3:30 a.m. in Thailand, and I'm waking up on my straw mat in a cement room at a monastery on a silent retreat. By this point in my life, I had read enough books about Zen and meditation and mindfulness to have started to see some real improvements, and I was hungry for more. So I decided the silent Vipassana retreat would be the best way to confront my mind head on and really break through the struggles that I was still facing. And during that time at that monastery, I explored every corner of my mind. I just sat there with so many of my fears, so many stories that I created in my head. And finally, after days and days of this, I got to experience a little glimmer of what existed in the space between my thoughts. Something happened in me that is beyond explanation. I felt as though I remembered my true nature, that I had finally encountered my real self. I had what many would describe as a mystical experience or an awakening experience or an encounter with God, and it was amazing. And then it went away. And this experience sparked my prime seeker years, where I read all the books and did all the retreats and listened to all the recordings of all the spiritual teachers. I even found myself in sort of a cult-like situation for a little bit there. I desperately wanted to find more of that thing that I felt, whatever it was. Because there, in that moment, I didn't have any mental health struggles because I didn't even really feel like I had a mind. Or at the very least, I wasn't identifying with it anymore. I went from being the story to the storyteller, from the character to the writer. And pushing into that space was the most helpful thing that I've ever done. And through that process, I learned to rest fully in the present moment. And eventually I called off the search because this is enough. I began to see that this, right now, life as it is all there is. And it's perfect. And I can find peace with that. So now here I am before you, completely cured. No, I'm just kidding, of course not. This is real life. I still struggle, especially this past year. I have found myself so humbled right back into the same struggles with depression and anxiety that I thought I was long past. But the difference now is I really understand myself. I understand my true nature, and I understand the nature of my mind. I know what all of those dark and twisties feel like, and so I'm not afraid of them anymore. I can snuggle up with them and give them the love that they are so desperately craving. Because here's the thing. Depression and anxiety are just stories that the mind spins. They exist as inner voices and mental landscapes that are fueled by fear and by lies. And all of those voices started as a little girl who didn't understand the world around her and wasn't sure if she was safe. So now when I hear these stories coming up in myself and I feel that fear and that darkness, I know that it is that little girl crying out for help, wondering if we are safe. So I tell her that we are. Because the only reasonable response to anything in this life is love. I wanted to share these stories with you today because they're the reason that I do what I do. They're the reason why I choose to create around these realizations and shifts that have saved me. It's not because I'm an expert. It's not because I have all the answers. It's because I'm a fellow human who has moved my way through a lot of shit. And as long as we are all in this game together, we might as well share with each other some of the cheat codes we find, right? I love you all so, so much, and I'm so excited to spend another year with you here, creating and sharing and growing together. Remember that you are safe, you are loved, and you have everything you need within you. Peace and blessings.